So Macron loves Napoleon. Far-right pundits are topping the charts. Parliament banned Muslim teenagers from wearing the hijab. Army officials are warning of a civil war. And if you care about what France is doing outside of France, well, they recently bombed a wedding in Mali and didn't even admit it or apologize for it. So what's going on in La France? Before we get into it, I have a quick Napoleon is part of us question. Do you think he would ever spend $30,000 on makeup in 3 months? Also, shout out TRT makeup team. Man's been doing it for 4 years for free. Still, I guess I owe you man millions. So let's start with far-right ideologue Eric Zemmour, who has fashioned himself as French culture's outspoken supervillain, and his rhetoric is becoming a driving force for French conservatism. So much so that as of May 3rd, CN News, the channel Zemmour works for, has become the most watched station in the country. And if you haven't heard of the man, well, here are some of his most profound intellectual ideas.
Le Coran divise le monde entre terre de guerre et terre d'islam, Dar el-Islam,
oui, tout à fait.
Et que nous sommes une terre de guerre.
MashaAllah, Zemmour seems to be an expert in Islamic studies, not to mention criminology, after he told the TV show host that drug dealers were mostly blacks and Arabs. A comment he actually went to trial for and was found guilty of inciting racial hatred. But criticism, fines, trials, and what have you have not stifled Zemmour's anti-Muslim bigotry, which is further triggering, inciting, and dividing French society. Also, another little Napoleon is part of us joke. Bonaparte did once say, "You don't reason with intellectuals, you shoot them." I reckon if Zemmour read that, he might say Napoleon was Muslim, fam. Also, Macron, don't shoot anyone, bro. A strong indicator of the simmering tension in French society was an open letter written by French soldiers that said the country was heading for a civil war. Why? Well, they blamed the Black Lives Matter protesters in France, Islamists and the hordes of the banlieue for dividing communities, spreading perils and dangers, and even taking over swaths of French territory as we speak. 1,000 servicemen and women, including some 20 retired generals, put their names to the letter. Members of the armed forces in France and in most nations are not supposed to express their political opinion in public. Adding more insult to injury, the letter was published on April 21st, on the 60th anniversary of a failed coup d'etat in France. And so it was not only deemed as an attack on France's BLM movement and its minorities, but as an attempted coup against Macron. One of the key figures who has endorsed this letter was Marine Le Pen, lead opposition candidate, head of the National Front Party, and daughter of Jean-Marie Le Pen, a man who also cozied up to putschs against Charles de Gaulle 60 years ago. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And look, this goes way beyond a few angry soldiers and far-right figures. The French government's policies and rhetoric are driving the controversy. Its most recent anti-separation bill banned the hijab for minors, effectively making it illegal for women under the age of 18 to wear the headscarf in public. It also prohibits mothers wearing the hijab to accompany their children on school trips. Logically, this could only cause frustration to the families of more than 3 million French Muslims, especially considering that the age for sexual consent in France is 15, but for the hijab, it's 18. Headscarf, sex, headscarf. I don't know. You tell me. Also, if you don't want anyone to be forced to wear the hijab, surely you don't force them to take it off. Paris is also having a hard time dealing with its colonial past. But even in its present, there is an absurd sense of denial. A UN report earlier this year showed that France had killed 22 civilians attending a wedding in the village of Bounti in central Mali. The French claimed that their warplanes and airstrikes killed terrorists without collateral damage. The report said otherwise, calling for both France and Mali to reopen an investigation into the incident. The report has been backed by the head of the UN, Antonio Guterres, by Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International. But France has neither apologized or paid any sort of real respect to the victims. And look, here's my 2 cents on all of this. And yes, I'm gonna tell you another quick Napoleon story. First of all, so we get one thing clear, this is the man who ordered the recolonization of Haiti and the enslavement of its people. A despicable act, to say the least. When Bonaparte once tried to invade Egypt, he tried to lie to the people and tell them that he was Muslim, coming with an army to liberate them. He tried to invade, but was smashed near where I come from in Abu Ir, Alexandria. But despite Napoleon's expedition being a military failure, what it did breed for France was a massive scholarly success. The scientists who accompanied Napoleon came back with knowledge that would create the field of Egyptology, the discovery of the Rosetta Stone, and much more. In the Quran, it says, "We created you all from a male and female, and made you into nations and tribes so that you may know each other." And so, in that spirit, maybe France's elite, its government, and its pundits should focus on sharing, learning, and understanding from others and from their own past.